Well, that's just fun to look at, to watch bees working so hard like that. Hey everybody, I'm David Burns, EAS Certified Master Beekeeper with you again. I've got a cool video I want to show you today. Something that happens to a lot of beekeepers, and when it happens, it's pretty tragic, and they don't know what to do. And it's a mistake that beekeepers make by not putting all the frames back in one of the boxes. And in this case here, in this hive, when I removed some of the frames of honey and took them into harvest, I neglected, I kept thinking I got to go back and put 2 or 3 frames in there once I, extract the honey out, but I forgot to do it. And now it is a mess. We're going to jump inside this thing and you're going to see something that will blow your mind. Let me show you. This is what happens when you fail to put all the frames back into a hive. They've made their own comb and attached it to the top cover, but not just one comb. Look at that. 2 pieces of comb. You got to be careful they don't break off. That's what you're going to get into if you don't put all the frames back in place. Let me put this over here and then I'll show you what it looks like down inside the hive. Look at that. What a mess. So they've just built some comb here. So I left out 2 frames. This one is ready to harvest, looks really good. Next to it there. What a mess. So let me show you, let's get started and I'll show you what we're gonna do to clean this mess up, because it's a tough thing to do because there's some brood in here. There's some honeycomb. There's some honey that we need to harvest out of this. So we need to do something with it. Let's get to work. Okay, so the very first thing we need to do to correct this is to find out and make sure that the queen isn't on these frames, this comb that is attached to the inside of the top cover. So what we'll do is just kind of look carefully, see if we can find the queen. Hopefully she's not there. But there is some brood, and so it's possible that she could be there. So start looking at the easiest side to notice the queen first. Like if you notice on this side over here, it's almost capped over. Nectar that's capped over, that makes it honey. So there's a lot of it down here that's already capped over. And so we can get a good picture to see if the queen is here or not. And so what you want to do now is just simply find a way to start, just cowboy up and start cutting the comb right down here so that we can release it from the inside bottom of the top cover. The truth is, you're probably not going to get out of this without making a mess. And I mean by making a mess, I'm talking about probably dripping honey everywhere, might be tearing up a little bit of the brood comb. But this is why you want to really be careful when you do remove frames out of your hive, so that if you do forget one, you're going to have a mess like this. So this is particularly the case when there is a green drone comb being used to trap mites. You can pull a green drone comb out and forget to put anything in its place, and all of a sudden you've got this problem with this mess. You have to go all the way down to the end, and boy, look how they've really attached it. I mean, they have glued it with wax all the way through. I've got a big part of it, I think, freed up. So what I'm going to do once I get it kind of freed up, let's see if it's freed on the bottom. It's a little bit somewhere here that it's still connected. All right, I think I got it. I'm going to lay it down just like that for a minute. I'll look for the queen, make sure she's not on here. Now, if I did find the queen, then what I would do is pick her up and set her in the other hive. Looking carefully for the queen, I don't see her. The more carefully that I look, I don't see the queen. I just see bees going about their activity. And on the other comb, I'll show you in just a minute, there is a lot of drone comb, male bees. If you use smoke like this, you can usually run the bees off the comb. Most of them will just move along. You can see bees are starting to gather more in the corner of the top cover over here. So I'm just going to keep smoking them, driving them off in a corner, getting them off. Comb. You can see how some of this is just some drone comb at the top here. The queen could still be here, and a lot of the bees are gathering off the comb into the corner after I smoked them. And that's okay, that's good, that's what we want. So the comb that we're looking at to do something with is virtually bee-free right now. And what you would do with it at this point is have a Tupperware bucket or some place where you can just move this comb, carry it off, place it into another area. There's really no right or wrong method to do this. There's really not. Anyway, it's better than another. So I'm just going to try to get the bees out from under it. What's really challenging in this case is that so much of the comb today it's a little warm, so much of this comb is extremely pliable, and I mean it is really going to be messy if it's so easy for it to break. So I'll just get some bees off the bottom, off my hand, and let's just try to move it into this other section. Got bees, kind of got some honey on them. The least bees that I move over, the better anyway. So, all right, so let's just go ahead and break it off in sections since that's how it's coming over. And most of the bees are off. Lay it in your bucket. In my case, I got a pan with a little bit of wax paper on it. Now, since the honey is dripping onto the top cover, it's not that big of a deal because once I put it back in the hive, that honey is just going to drip back inside where the bees will quickly clean it up. Okay, like I said, this is messy. So now we got this frame here that we need to deal with. Let's try to run the bees off. And it's the frame that is mostly brood. It's got drone brood on it. And so what I want to try to do is smoke the bees off of this comb. Also be mindful that you still need to be looking for the queen. You know, is it possible that she's somewhere walking around either on this comb or on the top cover? So before we do too much slamming the top cover down with all the bees on it, we are going to have to do a pretty good inspection in all those bees. So we're trying to run the bees off of this comb that we're going to move over. Now this comb in particular, since it is mostly, look at all the bees on my hive tool, it's mostly drone brood, so it's not much value to us at all. A lot of you might know that in order to trap mites, you use a green drone comb. And in doing that, you put it in the freezer for a day or two, and it kills all the mites that have decided to reproduce in the capped cell of drone cells. So in this case, we have actually created that. This comb here, being drone comb, probably has mites on the purple-eyed pupa just below it. And so in our case, the best thing to do with this comb for now is to remove it and freeze it. Discard it, but freezing it certainly kills all the mites. If you just throw it out in the yard, you're going to attract small hive beetle, and it's possible that some of those drones might be ready to emerge with all the mites underneath there. There is a little bit of capped over honey right here that we can eat, but this is the drone, capped over drone brood. And I'll show you that here. You can see that right here. Capped over drone. Capped over honey. So you kind of see the difference. Okay, so we need to move out some of these bees so that we can, and the best way to do that is to just use your bee brush. Let me grab my bee brush real quick. So you can just take your bee brush and kind of start gently brushing the bees off the comb. Now this is good. Now, I know you may be thinking, I'll never do that. This is a dumb video. I'll never do that. Never say never. All right, so we'll just set that in here for now, and we can move it out. Don't leave it out too long. Other bees may start robbing it. All right, we're not done with the majority of our work just yet because we have comb inside the hive that we have to deal with. Let's get to work on that. Okay, so what we want to do now is clean up the area down inside this hive where the 2 frames were left out and see if we can bring some order to this chaos that's inside the hive. So what we're going to do is, again, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be clean. It is going to be messy. My hands, my camera, my tripod, everything is covered with honey. You can just see my hands and everything. Okay, so anyway, now that we're dirty, we can get our work done. Let's first try to smoke the bees pretty good off of the stray comb that they've built. Move them off of it so that we can have less bees to deal with. Again, we're going to drip honey. So what I'm trying to do now is cut the comb off of the wall, and it's sort of a dry connection because they've connected it and I don't have to break open much of the comb on the side there. This is a little bit like, I guess, pulling teeth. You just kind of keep wiggling until something comes out. All right, that's nice. Got a few bees on it. Let's see if we can brush the few bees off that we have on this comb. And then we'll throw it in our little bowl over there. Now, some of you may be wondering, hey, David, what will you do with this comb? It's not all capped over yet. Some of it seems to be open. Will you use it? Heck yeah, I will. I'm not going to try to sell it to anybody because, you know, if I bottle it, sure, it may not be at the proper moisture level. But for me, I'll eat it all day long. It doesn't hurt you to eat honey or nectar that's not turned into honey yet. It may be a high moisture content. I mean, if you wanted to, you could drink nectar, right? Nectar of the gods. Nectar's not bad for you. But if you bottle honey or nectar when it still has a high moisture content, it can ferment. But I'm not going to bottle it. I'm just going to use it for myself. All right, now let's try to go across the top. We're going to open some comb up and make things drip. But it looks like it's connected right about here. And so what we're going to do is just see if we can wiggle this loose. It is connected at the bottom. And so I'm not going to go crazy trying to get it loose at the bottom. Just try to, again, wiggle it back and forth. I'd love for it to break loose with a little bit of the pressure that I'm giving it. But it's not happening. And I'm just trying to avoid upsetting the hive a lot by taking a ton of frames out. So now I'm just trying to pull as much as I can down low, like that. Okay, so I got a chunk, literally a chunk of comb honey. But I didn't get it all. Got to go a little deeper. We'll deal with that. But doesn't that look beautiful? All right, I'll eat that. May have that tomorrow for breakfast or tonight before I go to bed. All right, so what we're going to do now is try to figure out how to get that little piece off the bottom down there. Put that one in the bucket. Oh, by the way, if you have some people that can help you do this, look at that bee there, like, I'll clean this up, David. Let's give me a minute. She's got a little proboscis working down in that drip of honey. If you have somebody that can help you, they can have a bucket of water nearby. And you can keep rinsing off your hands. That feels so good to get your hands cleaned up when they're covered with honey. All right, so we basically got it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the frame up where the bee is working right now. Did I see a small hive beetle? There it is. Ooh, small hive beetle. Dead on the spot. Got her. Take that, small hive beetle. Where I live here in central Illinois, small hive beetles are a minimal problem. Generally, you don't have issues with small hive beetle because we just don't have necessarily the long climate for them to reproduce, like in a hot, humid, moist climate. That doesn't happen for a long time. It happens for a short time. And we don't have sandy soil. It's not easy for bees to pupate in our type of soil. They can do it, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly not handy as it is some southern states. Capped over honey right next to the mess that was created by leaving frames out. And more capped over honey. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? White. Don't you just love that? Isn't that? Wow. Just look at that all day long, right? Okay, let's set that aside for now. And we got to clean up the bottom area. Now, probably the best way to do it is just to dig it out, but we certainly want to smoke the bees off as much as we can. Why are there so many bees there? Honey is dripping, and so they're cleanup crew. They're trying to make use of the open honey by recapturing it and placing it in different areas. So they're doing what we want them to do, clean up, but I don't want to kill any bees at all. So if I can get them off of this when I scrape it out of the way, I will avoid injuring or killing some bees. It's gonna drip. It's just gonna be ugly, but it'd be fine. All right, there it is. I got it. I got my hand underneath it. I'm just gonna dump it in my bucket over here. Whew, good. All right. Now we need the bees to go to town and start cleaning that up. So that's cleaned up enough for us. So we're gonna count. Let's see how many frames we need to put back in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're missing 3 frames. Hey, before I show you how to put the 3 frames in, I'm going to do something that's, look at that frame. Oh my gosh. I have just had such a wonderful year of making the most beautiful honey. I've got to sell this honey online. We've got so much honey. All right, so what I want to show you is this next frame. I made this frame many years ago, and I made it in order to see if I could make comb honey using a frame that I made myself. So it's an old frame, probably 10 years old. And what it is, oh, it did work so nicely. Look at that. So it's a frame that I put sections into it, divided sidebars, and a super frame to see if they would build this comb honey themselves. My hands were so sticky, and they did such a nice job. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? That comb can be cut out and, placed in something and eaten, chewed on, enjoyed all year. So, wow, this is so full of honey. But what we need to do now is focus and put 3 frames in. Now, 1 frame is leaning against my hive here. It's capped over, needs to be harvested. I don't have time to harvest today, making the video. So we're going to have to add 2 more frames in here. And let's take care of that before we forget. All right, so now that we're ready to put our 2 comb back in, 2 frames, I've actually selected some frames that I've already harvested. And so, as you can see, it's already been spun. And so these are frames that the bees may really take to quickly. We call these wet supers. Wet super frames, beautiful drawn out comb that I've harvested. And it might be tight getting these 2 in because I can tell some of these frames in there have been pulled a lot further out than the frames themselves. So in order to make it, yeah, I do need to Well, when you do that, what you need to do is try to work all your spacings out better. Let me give you a close-up. So when trying to make the frames a little tighter, it's risky sometimes because they may already be, the frames may be drawn out so close together that you might really cut down on their pathway. I kind of hate to do it. Let me think. Let me see if I can push them the other way. I think the other way is better. I got a little more gaps over here. So I'm going to try to take my Hive tool, yep, and move it over. While we're here, let's look at this beetle trap. Let me bring it into the screen here for you. This is a small Hive beetle trap. And I don't see any beetles in there at all. I've got some special drawing. I have some special little fluid that I put in there to attract beetles, and it did not capture any. Okay, so what we'll do is kind of push all the frames tighter together as best we can on this side. A word of caution: when you're tearing out comb, like I've demonstrated today, wash everything up, like your Hive tool, the handle of your bee brush. Don't just throw that around. Take that and drop it in your sink. Let's clean all that stuff up because it is so messy. And indeed, it can draw and attract a lot of little critters that you don't want around your operation and your harvest room, like small hive beetle or ants, cockroaches, black mold, all the bad stuff, right? All right, so the problem that I'm trying to avoid, let me swing my camera down here a little more, is as you can see, as I drop this frame down, right through here, this is drawn out pretty wide. And so what I'm attempting to do is make enough space so that I can get that down in there without tearing that open, because if I tear it open, it's just going to drip and not be beautiful. All right, let's see how it goes. If it tears it a little bit, I don't think it's a problem, but I just don't want to jam it too tight or the bees can't really get in place and actually draw that comb out. Well, it's good though. I can see it's good. Wow, we did it. So what we did was we actually took out all that bad comb, not bad, but stray comb that was everywhere where it shouldn't have been. We dug it out and we captured it. We don't want to waste it, so I put it in a Tupperware little container, or a metal container with some wax paper on it. And apparently all the bees that were over here on the top cover flew back home. So thank you girls for doing that, so I don't have to. Okay, so the only thing left to do now is for us to put the top cover back on and then take our pan back inside. Apparently the queen wasn't here. We were a little concerned. We'll double check this top cover and take this off. Put it in our bucket over here. If the queen was here, there'd be a lot of bees gathered around her, and I don't see that. All right, so we're ready to put our top cover back on. And then I want to show you, before you go, what it all looks like now. All right, here's the final product. And it really didn't take us all that long to get her done. And it wasn't horrible. It was actually quite pleasant experience. So a lot of this honey, you can squeeze it out if you want to make liquid honey. Like this piece, you could just start squeezing with your hands, all the pieces. Get all the little bees out first. And then on this drone comb, the drone brood, cut around it like this. And get the brood out and freeze, discard that brood so that you don't get extra protein in your honey. And so that is a way to capture all the comb that has been gathered in a place where you left a frame out. Well, the best part of getting done inspecting your hive is taking the bee suit off and getting cooled off. It was hot. And here is the honey comb that we harvested that was built kind of in a stray way. The second best part is eating it. Hey everybody, thanks for watching my YouTube video today. I appreciate it so much. I do hope that you will subscribe just below the comb here so that you'll be notified each time I produce a new video with these kind of tips to help you out. Today's tip is going to help you keep you from making mistakes, and it will help you know what to do when you make that mistake. It happens to the best of us. So please subscribe. Also visit our website at honeybeesonline.com. I have a winter class, how to get your bees through the winter, coming up. So come out to the training center behind me here, take one of our classes on getting your bees through the winter, and we'll look forward to meeting you and seeing you then. Meanwhile, I'm going to enjoy this piece of comb. Best thing ever. Messy? Best thing ever. Wow. Perfect.